It is a great honor and privilege to introduce our guest speaker, who I'm delighted to call a friend and colleague. Jamie Belsito represents the 4th Essex District in the Massachusetts General Assembly. She is also the founder of Maternal Mental Health Leadership Alliance and serves as our honorary board chair. Jamie has been a fierce advocate for maternal mental health. She successfully led a grassroots effort in 2015 and 16 to help pass the Bringing Postpartum Depression Out of the Shadows Act, which provided the first federal legislation and funding to address maternal mental health. So please give a warm welcome to Jamie Belsito, who will provide a brief overview of perinatal mental health disorders. Some people have been referring to them on our presentation so far today as maternal mental health disorders. There's many, many names, but Jamie's going to give us a quick walkthrough so that we're all on the same page. So welcome, Jamie.
Hats off to my fierce leader, executive director, Adrian Griffin, and colleague, friend, and someone whom I met years ago prior to being in the privileged space of being a representative of my hometown and 6 communities here in what I believe to be the best place in the world, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And that space and time for me, I'd say about 8 years ago, was that of a mom suffering from debilitating postpartum mental health conditions and not being able to find adequate support. And so I look at this screen of amazing advocates and doctors and moms and legislators and administrators and everyone here, just to say it truly takes all of us working together. And here we are talking about federal programs. And I'm so blessed to have this space to talk about what I went through personally and why it matters to bring it to the policy space. So we'll go to that next slide, please. Perinatal mental health disorders, maternal mental health disorders, behavioral health issues, exactly what we were talking about. It's a range of descriptors, and it's truly not just postpartum. It's not just depression. It seems to be a perfect storm. When we're talking about perinatal mental health, we are talking about the pregnancy piece all the way through to that first year. Perhaps we'll have another conversation of extending that timeline at another place in time. But this timeline encompasses a lot of behavioral health disorders, depression, bipolar. My personal manifestations were anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, post-traumatic stress. There's a lot of comorbidities with substance use disorders. I want to say hats off to Congresswoman Nanette Barragán. Thank you so much for addressing this. I'd also like to say, in looping back to what Adrian stated in 2016, we had a fierce champion named Catherine Clark, who also is a state representative in the Massachusetts State Legislature, went on to be in the state Senate in Massachusetts, and then subsequently took the place of former Representative Ed Markey. She heralded and championed our postpartum legislation then, and it's another piece of legislation we're working with her is H7073 for those policy folks out there. I'd like to say hats off to Kirsten Gillibrand, who also continues to be a partner in this space. That's Senate Bill 3824. So when we're taking a look at this little box, going back to what we're speaking about and how it intersects with policy, it's all of these behavioral health issues that can manifest during pregnancy and post-pregnancy. Next slide, please. We've said it before, I'm going to say it again. They're the number one complication of pregnancy and childbirth. Hats off to the Biden-Harris administration, who also specifically stated this in the FY23, and I also believe FY22 budget. You know what's the most incredibly hopeful part about this? They're temporary and they're treatable. And I say that standing or sitting here rather before you on Zoom today to say that where I was 8 years ago to where I am today is night and day. I needed support. I needed someone who understood what this was and needed to understand that there was light at the end of the tunnel. And that is absolutely true. No one is alone in this space. And I'm so thankful for the maternal mental health hotline that we have. I think it's phenomenal. Someone can answer that line. And I thank HRSA and HHS and the administration for working with us on that. This illness affects up to 1 in 5 pregnant or postpartum people. But let us also just highlight the fact 1 in 3. And this is socioeconomic. There's a whole host of other issues that go into this. We see this with our veterans population. We see that with our spouses of serving. There's a lot to boil down in that. But the takeaway is it's incredibly common. You see this big turquoise box here saying 75% of those who experience symptoms go untreated. Untreated perinatal mental health conditions can have long-term effect on the family, on the baby, on society, on mothers. It is incumbent upon us as a society to take care of our most vulnerable, and that is women, that is birthing people, and those are and our babies. This is easy, folks. This is low-hanging fruit, and that's why we're talking about this, because again, there are ways we're going to talk about how to prevent this, and that's the exciting part about today. My other favorite part of this, when folks want to talk dollars, guess what? Drum roll, please. $14 billion per a Mathematica study on what this looks like for not treating perinatal mental health disorders. And I'll also say readmittance based on a study done. It was New York, Chicago, and Florida. Highest readmittance for postpartum individuals were psychiatric readmittance. We have an ability to decrease this and take care of our families. Next slide. We as those of us in this space were so not thankful. That's not the right word. We were not surprised, rather, to find out that the intersection of maternal mental health intersected with our escalating maternal mortality rates. And we found that there were issues around socioeconomics and racial inequities. Very obvious. We have the facts, and we're out there heralding this issue right now. I'd like to say thank you to the Black Maternal Health Caucus, whom we work with all the time to make sure that we are representing those who need the most support. And those are individuals who are underrepresented and are suffering the highest impact. And suicidality and substance use and those comorbidities, we have the abilities to take care of this crisis. And I think the last slide, please. Okay. This right here gives me anxiety looking at it, and I'm not even nursing. I don't have a baby anymore. I'm not feeding. It's coronavirus and its formula, and we are dedicated to working on those issues with our partners in the federal government. We don't need any more stress. And our last slide, I believe. Why should we care? It's the most common complication. Temporary and treatable, suicide and overdose leading cause of death. What did we find with our maternal mortality boards? 100% of this is preventable. I believe that was it, Adrian. You may have some additional facts and figures. I want to thank this incredible group here today, and would be more than happy to speak with anybody on these issues. And I thank you for the opportunity. And I am blessed to be here before you today to speak about this issue. Thank you to all.
Thank you, Jamie, for shedding some light on a little bit of the details of these illnesses. We know that they can be devastating, but as you said, the good news, most often perinatal mental health issues are temporary and treatable.